For most of my life, I thought I was just a little bit extra, disorganized, flaky, chatty, oversharing, emotional, indecisive, and generally a little bit of a mess on the inside. And even though on the surface of it, people have seen me as reasonably organized and put together, the effort that it has taken to get there has been enormous. I used to think all of this was just me, and every time I was oversharing or late on a deadline or panicking last minute about something or generally feeling like I was not in control of my life and instead it was on top of me, I used to beat myself up. That is, until at age 40, just over a year ago, I was diagnosed with ADHD and suddenly it all made sense. So in this video, I'm going to share some of my ADHD symptoms that have been hiding in plain sight all along for my whole life that literally no one noticed. And if they did, they certainly didn't mention it to me. And you know what? A heads up would have been nice. Now, quick disclaimer, as we always have to do when we talk on the internet, that I'm not a doctor. And if I was a doctor, I am not your doctor. So if you believe you have any signs of ADHD and you want to get that investigated, please speak to your own doctor. The things I'm sharing in this video are not designed for medical diagnosis purpose, just to raise awareness and hopefully make some people who are currently feeling like I used to feel, like a bit of a hopeless mess, realize that maybe there may be a little bit more to it and it is not your fault. Your brain is just fabulous in a different way. I have got a free resource that you can grab, which is 100 different signs of ADHD. Again, not a medical document, just designed for you to raise awareness and empower you to note down your own symptoms if you are thinking about visiting your own doctor, so you know exactly the sorts of things that you might want to say in that appointment. Just head to mummyof4.com/100ADHD to grab your free copy. Now on to some things that I have done my whole life that are apparently ADHD things. Zoning out when I should be starting a task. So rather than just thinking, here is a task, I must get on with it, and then getting on with it, feeling so overwhelmed, not knowing which thing to start with, not being able to put the pieces in sequence, like packing, rather than just starting, sitting there totally frozen, wondering what to do first. Should I get the cases out? I felt totally overwhelmed. Hence why I developed a line of planners for if you were traveling, and I then follow that system myself. It really helps me. But apparently this whole zoning out and feeling totally overwhelmed before starting a task, an ADHD thing. Another ADHD thing is procrasticleaning and procrasta shopping, and procrasta pretty much insert anything here. Basically side questing when you should be doing something else. Maybe it's something helpful, and I often do talk myself into doing other things and I'm like, do you know what? This is a really helpful thing. This is important that I do this now. But honestly, I should just be doing the thing that I'm supposed to be doing and not this other apparently helpful thing, which is a side quest. Let's face it, it's a side quest. Feeling overwhelmed by making basic decisions. Now, I have always put this down to being a Libra. I am the symbol of the scales. I weigh everything up. I figured that's why I'm indecisive. Apparently, that can be an ADHD thing too. Saying yes too much, like a people pleaser, and then instantly regretting it because it's not something I actually wanted to do or have time to do, but a yes blurted out of my mouth before I had time to think of it. And generally not thinking before I speak in a wider sense too, sometimes oversharing, thinking, oh wow, I wish I hadn't said that. Blurting out things that are potentially inappropriate. Apparently that's an ADHD thing, as well as struggling sometimes in conversation because I'm so worried I'm going to forget what I need to say and then I've zoned out on what the other person is saying and I'm trying so hard not to interrupt. Also an ADHD thing, urge to interrupt. But I think that's generally because we're just so worried that the thing we're trying to say and we're going to forget it and we want to remember it, and then we're trying so hard to remember what we want to say that we've forgotten to listen to what the other person's saying, and then we're like, oh no, I didn't listen to what they were saying. What were they saying? Oh, hang on, now that thing in my head has just gone too. It's a struggle. Doing 5 other quick jobs before starting a task. Yes, those are also side quests. Also, before being able to do a task, having to break it down into smaller steps so it's not so overwhelming. This can look like having to write multiple to-do lists just for one basic thing rather than pack all of the steps that need to go into that. And then color coding with highlighters and different pens and things to make it interesting, just in order to encourage myself to want to do the thing. And then constantly feel like I'm absolutely drowning, even though everyone else thinks I really have it together. And this is not me trying to project some sort of image of something that isn't truthful, because I think I'm always trying to be quite honest about how things are actually going. And yes, okay, I do have systems that I share on this channel inside my Organised Life Club that really do work for me in my life. But I think the ADHD element of this is how much struggle it's taken for me to get here, and how much I still have to really force myself with self-discipline to stay on track. And then that fear I've got of slipping back to that chaos that I've had to claw my way out of. And then this looks like being stuck in cycles of not being able to stop and burnout, because I'm so terrified of slowing down and sliding back to that place where there are no systems and everything is out of control. Because I know I used to label myself as lazy because I couldn't get things done and I struggled so much when other people didn't seem to struggle. And I'm so scared of being that lazy person, in inverted commas again, that it's almost scary to stop and slow down. Apparently that's ADHD. Fun. Do let me know down in the comments, by the way, if you guys are relating to any of these and whether you are diagnosed, undiagnosed, you know very little about ADHD, or you're kind of on the pathway and thinking you might be in my gang. Having multiple drinks on the go. Apparently this is a thing. So it's like it's one for caffeine and another for hydration. And who knew? Apparently that's a very ADHD thing to do. And then there's packing for every possible scenario just in case. Now, I've always attributed this to having children with autism, which I do. So a lot of my packing, I do have to pack for every eventuality, because I know that if I don't, one of my children or maybe my husband will have a meltdown if the thing that they need is not packed. So from experience, this is the case. But I think the reason I get so detailed and into my lists and things when I am packing, and you'll know this if you've watched Pack With Me videos on this channel or over on my Magical Adventures channel, when I'm packing for my big Disney trips, I do go into a lot of detail when I'm packing, but this is because I'm so scared of forgetting something, because I constantly feel like I have forgotten something. Whenever I leave the house, it's always like, what have I forgotten? I guess it's because my brain is such a chaotic mess inside, and I know I've forgotten things so many times in the past. I'm assuming, even if I haven't forgotten something, that I have still forgotten something. Hence why the lists help. So whenever I've got a checklist, it just really helps me, because I can go, okay, brain, we have gone through the checklist. Everything is ticked, and therefore you have not forgotten anything. You can chill now. But that awful feeling of what have I forgotten? What have I forgotten? Apparently is very, very common with us ADHDers. My internal clock being kind of broken, apparently another ADHD thing. So I can either slip into a hyper-focus and not notice the passage of time at all, or get so hyper-focused on not missing something that I can't do anything else other than stare at the clock. Hence why alarms really, really help me, and I have them going off at various times during the day to remind me to do things like, hey, turn off your computer and go and fetch your children from school. There's also this constant feeling of, wow, where's this last week gone? Where has all the time gone? And I know a lot of people report feeling like that, but apparently for us ADHDers, that's kind of heightened. Then there's feeling guilty when I do slow down. I don't know if this comes from something that was programmed into me in childhood, but my guess is this is coming back to feeling guilty for being lazy before and not being on top of things. And every time I rest, it kind of reminds me of that. And I feel like I should be doing something because I've probably forgotten something. So therefore I should be doing that thing that I've forgotten. And then the guilt that comes with resting is exhausting. And also, I guess, to follow on from that, not really knowing how to rest. Resting is something I really struggle with. Just sitting still to watch TV is kind of agony. Unless it is literally the most gripping show in the whole world that I've actually been waiting for, and there's been a lot of build up about, I'm going to struggle. I've either got to be eating something, drinking something, doing something, working on something on my laptop while watching TV, because just sitting and resting is such a struggle unless I've reached that actual burnout stage where I can do nothing but sit still. And obviously, I guess the ideal situation is resting before I hit that stage where I cannot physically do anything but zone out, which in itself does not feel restful. It feels draining. So yes, who'd have thought that at age 41, I have still yet to figure out how to do something as basic as resting. Then, of course, there's getting overwhelmed by replying to messages, thinking, oh, I don't know exactly what to say, and then not replying, but then feeling really guilty because you haven't replied, and then feeling super duper guilty because you haven't replied for ages now, and then it being awkward, and then worrying if you've upset people because you haven't replied. The cycle is real. If all of this is resonating with you, by the way, and you would like to know my systems I use to actually get through life now and actually have most of it together, yes, okay, I've not yet figured out how to rest, but most of the rest of the stuff, the systems and things, they really work. So if you want to hang out with me and a whole bunch of other mostly neurodivergent mums, not all of them are neurodivergent. I think most of the families in there either are ADHDers themselves or they've got kids with autism, but it's an amazing community of people. Anyway, but we'd love to have you inside of the Organised Life Club. Head to mummyoffour.com/join to check it out. I think one of the biggest struggles is just living with the mental load that nobody sees. This constant, oh my gosh, I've had a great idea. Hang on, I need to remember to do this. And it's like lots of people all kind of talking at once and me trying to tune in and listen to all of them is kind of a struggle. Then there's the needing to brain dump things immediately before they float out of my brain. I tell you, a few weeks ago in the shower, I had this most amazing idea. It was so good, but I cannot tell you what it was, and it's gone forever. I mean, hopefully not forever. Hopefully it'll come back to me at some point, but so far it's gone. It's not coming back. So the moral of the story is I need to write things down immediately. If I'm at home or at my desk, I can brain dump inside of my Organised Life planner. If I'm out and about, I have access to my phone. I have a dedicated brain dump note that I go through once a week when I do my weekend reset. And if I'm driving, I can say, hey, oh, apologies if this sets yours off, by the way, rhymes with Lily. Don't want to set yours off, but you know, the artificial intelligent man that lives inside my iPhone. Remind me to, and then it will either set a reminder or make a note. But if I don't do that, if I don't capture those ideas or things I remembered immediately, they float away. Then there's the stuff that people don't really see, like really holding it all together quite well in public, but then because perhaps I've overdone it, tried to cram too much in because I can't say no to things, totally crashing when we get home. There's the over-researching everything because I just want to get things right because I'm so used to feeling like I'm kind of failing. And then there's trying new system after new system, new planner after new planner. And I am delighted to say, actually, that although there have been new systems after new systems and new planners after new planners for many years, and I think a lot of us can relate, I have now, at age 41, finally got most of the systems tweaked so beautifully that things are running really well. And my planner, well, the reason I kept going through planners is because I couldn't find the perfect one. So I designed my own. I have my own planner store. The Organised Life Planner is the perfect ADHD planner because it works for our brains. It has space to do your weekend reset, your week at a glance, your meal plan, space to prioritize the things you have to do for the upcoming week, choose your most important tasks for each day, track habits, and block out your day in 30-minute time blocks. Record your to-dos. So these can be things that went well, things you're grateful for, or things you have done. Maybe there were side quests that weren't originally on your list. You couldn't tick them off. You could put them in your to-dos. And probably most importantly, actually, brain dump your side quests so that they do not float away. You can think, no, I'm not going to do that side quest. I'm going to write it down and do it later and get back to what I'm supposed to be doing. Then, of course, there are all the childhood cues that were missed, like every single school report saying, Rhiannon is so bright. I just wish she would apply herself. Or Rhiannon's homework is so good when she eventually hands it in. Or she has so much potential. I just wish she'd put in the work. Or remember to bring her books. I cannot tell you how many times I would not even think about a subject in school until my bum was back in that seat at the next lesson. And that was the first time it entered my brain. Oh gosh, we had homework. What was it? Because I've not so much as thought about it, let alone actually done it. And then really pulling it out of the bag at the last minute when under pressure, being okay, you've had months to do this project, the deadline's tomorrow, and actually handing it in and the work being good. So no red flags were raised. But maybe that in itself should have been a red flag. Like when my English teacher said, Rhiannon, I haven't had any coursework from you for 2 years and the deadline is the end of the week for your English GCSEs. And I did all the 2 years coursework in less than a week. That's a big old red flag, people. Big old red flag. And then my whole life, the perfectionism mixed in with the procrastination and then not being able to start things. I want them to be perfect. So then not being able to start them at all, but generally still being a reasonably high achiever. So no one really noticed because I always kind of did okay and then overachieving and burning out and repeating the whole cycle. I guess having a diagnosis meant that, yes, I have a label that I didn't have to tell anyone if I didn't want to. I mean, I'm sharing it with you because I'm hoping it will help some people, but I had that label given to me and I didn't have to mention it to anyone if I didn't want to. That could have been just something I wanted to keep to myself. If that's how I felt, It doesn't actually bother me, so I'm happy to discuss it. But do you know what? The label of ADHD is probably better than the other labels I was giving myself. Lazy, not motivated, messy, disorganised, too emotional, isn't trying hard enough, oversharer, too loud, too much. And personally, I think the label of ADHD is far kinder than those rather mean labels that I was giving myself. I would never talk to someone else that way. We shouldn't say anything to ourselves that we wouldn't be saying to our children or our friends or family or anyone that we love. So if any of this resonates with you, I would love you to come and hang out with me inside of the Organised Life Club. Grab your printable by going to mummyoffour.com/100 ADHD and let me know in the comments which of these resonated with you. To hear about even more signs of ADHD that so many people missed, click on the video on screen now, or this other video in which I share my entire ADHD journey, diagnosis story, in case that is helpful to anyone. And then, of course, you can hang out with me inside of my Organised Life Club. I would love to see you there. See you guys soon. Bye.